Grand Rising family, for all my conscious people, this is some very good information here to know about the solar eclipse that's going to happen tonight. The red moon solar eclipse that's going to happen tonight. For all my conscious people, I can put a video here, watch it, take note, and be aware. Hang on. Before I start, give thanks and praise the Creator, whoever you would conceive him or her to be. For me, always loving and kind, caring and humble, no judgmental, no criticizing, just love. Hang on, folks.
Right now, on March 3rd, 2026, a rare astronomical convergence opens what ancient traditions called a gateway of transformation. This window won't return in this exact configuration for years. Most people will scroll past it. A few will understand what it actually is and use it. This video is for the few. I'm going to give you the exact 3-day quantum reset protocol that ancient priest scientists used to work with this energy. The same principles that alchemists encoded in their most sacred texts. And I'm going to show you something that will sound completely counterintuitive. If you try to manifest or write your desires on March 3rd, it will backfire.
Not going to work. It's not going to work.
By the time this video is over, you will understand exactly why. And you'll have everything you need to make this the most significant energetic reset of your year. Let's begin. This is not just another full moon. This is a total lunar eclipse, what astronomers call a blood moon. Depending on where you are on Earth, the eclipse reaches its peak at different hours. For some, it's midday. For others, dusk. For others, deep night. That doesn't matter. Here's what matters. The energy of an eclipse is not bound to a clock. It saturates the entire day. It moves through every time zone simultaneously. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, this force is present, and it's waiting to see what you do with it. When the Earth moves between the sun and the moon, sunlight bends through our atmosphere and paints the moon a deep, living red. Not orange, not pink. Red. The color of transformation. The color of life force itself. Ancient observers across every civilization, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Mayan, Chinese, marked these events with months of preparation. Not because they were superstitious, because they understood something that modern culture has largely forgotten. Certain astronomical configurations create measurable shifts in the field that consciousness operates within. This blood moon falls on March 3rd, a mirror date, a number that reflects itself. In Hermetic numerology, when a number meets itself, it doesn't simply double, it resonates. Like two tuning forks calibrated to the same frequency, when one vibrates, the other responds without being touched. March 3rd is a resonance date, and the moon stands at the 13th degree of Virgo. Alchemists call this the Phoenix Point. When these three factors converge, a total lunar eclipse, a mirror date, and the Phoenix Point, you are not simply looking at an interesting astronomical event. You are standing at the entrance to what I call an eclipse portal. For the past several weeks, you may have felt something. A heaviness that doesn't have a clear source. A sense that things you thought you'd resolved are surfacing again. Disrupted sleep, heightened emotional responses.
This morning, I wake up with a splitting headache. I don't get headaches, but this morning I wake up with a splitting headache. A splitting headache this morning. Keep going, folks.
A low-grade feeling that something is ending, but you can't name what. This is not dysfunction. This is the eclipse portal opening. In ancient cosmology, the period between two eclipses was called a passage. The interval when the veil between the visible and invisible worlds becomes thinner. What has been operating beneath the surface of your daily life begins to rise, not to break you, to be seen, named, and released. Here's the precise mechanism, described in alchemical language. The eclipse corridor creates conditions of energetic pressure that force latent patterns to the surface. Think of it as pressure applied to a sealed system. What has been compressed must eventually express.
Everything you've been carrying, the unprocessed grief, the identity you've outgrown, the relationship dynamic that ended but lives on in your head, the self-concept that no longer fits. The portal is surfacing it now because March 3rd creates the optimal window for complete energetic release. This is what alchemists called sublimation, the process by which a substance moves directly from solid to vapor, bypassing the liquid stage entirely. No slow dissolution, direct transformation. The portal doesn't dissolve your burdens gradually. It vaporizes them, if you allow it. And that word, allow, is the most important word in this entire video. Because here is what most people misunderstand about powerful energetic events. The portal creates the conditions. It opens the door. Walking through it is your choice. This is why the 3-day quantum reset protocol exists. Because walking through this portal consciously, with preparation, with intention, with the right sequence of steps, produces a fundamentally different result than stumbling through it unaware. March 3rd is the exhale after a very long, very deep inhale. Let's make sure you exhale fully. Before I give you the protocol, we need to talk about something specific. Because this eclipse doesn't just happen, it happens in Virgo, and that is not arbitrary. Every eclipse illuminates and simultaneously transforms the specific qualities of the sign it occupies. Virgo carries extraordinary gifts, precision, discernment, and almost preternatural ability to see what others miss. The capacity to create order from chaos, not through force, but through love of the process. The healer's mind. But every light casts a shadow. The shadow of Virgo is the most invisible and the most costly of all shadow patterns. This portal comes specifically to dismantle it. It is the illusion of control. Not the obvious, overt control that's easy to recognize from the outside, the refined kind. The kind that has worn the disguise of responsibility for so long that you no longer see it as control at all. It calls itself conscientiousness. It hides inside caring for others. It convinces you, if I prepare enough, if I anticipate every variable, if I execute perfectly, then I will be safe. Then I won't be abandoned. Then I won't be judged. Then the structure will hold. Do you recognize this operating system? In psychological terms, this is a survival protocol, a pattern established early in life when the nervous system learned that perfection meant safety. The child who understood, if I'm flawless, I won't be punished. If I don't make mistakes, the people I depend on will remain stable. If I make myself useful enough, I will be loved. That child is still running the code. And here is the precise problem with old survival code. It was written for a context that no longer exists. It solved a real problem once, but the code doesn't update automatically. It keeps running long after the original threat has passed, consuming computational resources that could be used for something entirely different. In energy terms, the maintenance of this control pattern requires a continuous drain on your life force. Every scenario you pre-process for every possible outcome. Every yes you speak when your system signals no. Every moment you spend managing others' perceptions of you. Every piece of yourself you defer again because there's something more urgent that needs your attention first. The energy that flows into that system is energy that is not flowing toward creation. This is what the Virgo eclipse comes to restructure. Not to punish the pattern, to liberate the energy trapped inside it.
The 13th degree of Virgo, the Phoenix point, is where transformation reaches maximum intensity. The Phoenix doesn't burn because it loses. It burns because that is the only pathway to complete regeneration. To emerge not just repaired, but fundamentally new.
On the other side of that fire, there is sky, wider than anything you've navigated while carrying the weight of the old operating system. I need to stop here and say something that goes against everything you've likely been taught in the manifestation space. Do not script your desires on March 3rd. Do not use the 369 method. Do not write your intentions list. Do not visualize your outcomes. I know that sounds wrong. Let me explain exactly why. The universe, whatever framework you use to understand that word, hears you with perfect clarity on March 3rd. Every signal you send is amplified. Every intention is registered, including the unconscious ones. Here's the problem with manifestation layered on top of uncleared energy. You are broadcasting on two frequencies simultaneously. The conscious desire and the subconscious pattern that has been running beneath it. When those two signals transmit at the same time through an amplified field, they don't combine. They interfere. This is not metaphor. This is wave mechanics. Two signals of different frequencies don't add. They create destructive interference. The result is resistance. You've experienced this. You've set intentions clearly, repeatedly, and watched the same old outcomes reproduce themselves with minor variations. That's not failure of the method. That's interference. March 3rd is not a day to fill the vessel. It is the day to empty it completely. The alchemists of the Renaissance understood this principle precisely. Before any great work could begin, the vessel had to be purified, not partly, completely. An impure vessel introduced into the transmutation process doesn't just fail to transform, it contaminates the entire operation. This is what I call void alchemy. The quantum void is not emptiness as absence. It is emptiness as pure potential. In quantum physics, the vacuum state is not nothing. It is the ground state from which all particles emerge. It is more generative, more creative, more alive than any state of fullness. When you create genuine void on March 3rd, when you release the old energy completely, you don't create a hole. You create a field of pure possibility. And into that field, the universe does not wait. What was blocked by the old content rushes in. The golden stream of new energy, new people, new capacities, new states. It was always there. It couldn't enter because the old architecture was occupying the space. Clear the architecture first. That is the protocol. February 28th, March 1st, March 2nd. 3 days, 3 steps, one for each day, though in practice they overlap and reinforce each other. The eclipse corridor is already in the closing phase. The energetic field is naturally contracting, moving inward, completing cycles. If you try to push forward, new projects, forced decisions, aggressive outreach, you are swimming directly against the current. You will exhaust yourself and gain almost no ground. Work with the contraction, not against it. In practical terms, these 3 days are not days for initiation. They are days for completion and reduction. Strip your schedule down to the essential. Decline what can be declined. Reduce inputs, less noise, less stimulation, less consumption of other people's energy fields through media. The body is already engaged in integration work during this window. Every night of disrupted sleep, every unexpected emotional surge, every moment of inexplicable fatigue you've experienced in recent weeks, that has been your system processing what the portal surfaced.
Support that process rather than overriding it. Go to bed earlier than usual, not because you're tired, because sleep during this window operates as active energetic integration. The body uses it differently than it uses ordinary rest. Slow down the pace of everything. Eat slower, speak less, listen more. The information you need right now is not arriving through external channels.
It's rising from inside. Slowness is not weakness during an eclipse corridor. It is the preparation of soil before planting. Earth that has been rushed and immediately seeded doesn't hold the seed. It washes out at the first pressure. Earth that has been given time to settle, to breathe, to receive, holds. And what is planted in it grows differently. Everything you plant after March 3rd will grow in the soil you prepare now. This step operates on a principle that every major wisdom tradition has independently confirmed. External order creates internal space. This is not organizational advice. This is spatial alchemy. The deliberate reshaping of your physical environment to shift the energetic architecture of your internal state. In the Egyptian temple tradition, before any significant ceremony, the priests cleaned the floor, every surface, not as a hygiene practice, as a ritual act of clearing. External disorder holds internal disorder in place. This was understood thousands of years before neuroscience began mapping the relationship between environmental inputs and cognitive state. The instructions are precise and intentional. Choose one space that has been accumulating unprocessed material. One drawer, one corner, one shelf. It doesn't need to be large. It needs to be real. Clear it completely. You will notice something specific when you do this. A corresponding shift in your internal state that occurs without any deliberate mental effort. This is spatial alchemy working. The external clearing creates internal space as a direct result, not as a metaphor, not as a mood effect, but as a measurable shift in your energetic architecture. That cleared space is the physical anchor for the quantum void you are building. This is the most subtle and most powerful step of the three. What you are doing in these 3 days is beginning to consciously identify what belongs to the old timeline. The energy signature, identity structure, relational dynamic, or self-concept that ends on March 3rd. You are not making decisions. You are not creating action plans. You are not trying to fix or resolve anything. You are observing, naming, and in the naming, beginning the severance. What in your current life is occupying space, but no longer generating life force? What are you maintaining out of fear, out of inertia, out of the deeply conditioned belief that releasing it will create something worse, when in fact, the maintenance of it is already creating something worse? What patterns of thought return on a cycle, drawing energy each time they complete a loop? This can be specific, a particular person, a particular situation, a story you've been telling about yourself since before you can remember. It can also be diffuse, a quality of exhaustion, a weight that has no single identifiable source. Notice it, name it internally, without judgment, without the impulse to immediately resolve it. The naming is the beginning of the severance. The acknowledgement that this exists and occupies space is already the first step toward what happens on March 3rd. 3 days of quiet, conscious preparation, and you enter the portal not as a spectator of an astronomical event. You enter as someone who knows exactly why they are there, what they are releasing, and what they are ready to receive. That readiness changes everything. The number 3 is one of the most alive, most generative numbers in the entire symbolic lexicon of ancient knowledge. The principle of 3 is not a cultural preference. It appears across every system of understanding reality that humanity has independently developed. 3 dimensions of space, 3 states of matter, 3 aspects of time, 3
Right.
fundamental forces in the structure of the atom. In Christianity, the Trinity. In Hinduism, the Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, representing the complete cycle of existence. The Celtic triple goddess. The Taoist 3 treasures. 3 points create the triangle, the most structurally stable form in nature. 3 notes create a chord. 3 statements can change a life. I love you. Forgive me. I forgive you. When 3.03 appears, when 3 meets its own reflection, something specific happens in the field. 2 frequencies tuned to identical pitch don't merely combine, they resonate. When you strike one tuning fork, the second responds without contact, vibrating at the same frequency from pure sympathetic resonance. This is March 3rd. On a resonance date, the distance between internal state and external manifestation compresses dramatically. What you release internally creates space externally, almost without delay. What you clear from your energetic architecture expresses in your lived reality at an accelerated rate. This is also why March 3rd carries the energy of joy. Not solemn, weighted joy. Living, creative, generative joy. The number of Jupiter in certain traditions. The number that knows how to create from nothing simply because creation is its nature. March 3rd doesn't need to be a heavy, somber ritual. It can be, and perhaps should be, a celebration. The celebration of a cycle completing. The celebration of energy becoming available again for the first time in months. The alchemy of endings. 13 is the number of transformation, not misfortune, transformation. In the tarot, the 13th card of the major arcana is called Death. It is among the most misunderstood cards in the entire deck, and one of the most transformative. Death in the tarot has never meant physical death. It has always meant the complete, liberating renewal of form. The caterpillar doesn't lose when it dissolves inside the chrysalis. It doesn't fail. It becomes the only thing it was always structurally designed to become,
Butterfly.
by surrendering the form it started with. The phoenix burns not because it is defeated. It burns because it knows something that fear cannot access. The fire doesn't destroy. The fire completes. And what emerges from completed fire is not the same thing repaired. It is something genuinely new. The 13th degree of Virgo is the precise point of maximum transformational intensity in this eclipse. The phoenix at full combustion, not in fear, in full readiness, in the understanding that runs deeper than any fear. What you are releasing was never you. It was the armor that protected you when protection was necessary. It was the operating system that kept you functional in an environment that required it. That environment no longer exists. The armor served you. Honor it for that, and take it off. What the eclipse of the Phoenix Point offers is not destruction. It is permission. Permission to stop being perfect. Permission to release the need to control every outcome. Permission to let something unfold without managing it. Permission to say, I don't know, without it triggering a survival response. Permission to stand without the armor and discover, possibly for the first time in a very long time, what you feel like without its weight. Vulnerable, alive, real. What has been rising inside you as you've watched this, that is not a thought, that is a signal. And if you don't give it a channel right now, it will recede beneath the surface, back to where it was invisible. Pause this video, go to the comments, type this declaration. I sever the old timeline. I enter the void. I am ready. That's it. 3 sentences. When you write this, you are doing something specific and real. You are externalizing an internal state, which is the first physical step of the severance process. The neural pathway activated by the act of writing and declaring is different from the pathway activated by thinking. Writing it makes it real in a way that internal processing cannot. The comments here are not just a metric, they are a field. Thousands of people watching this video are in the same portal, carrying variations of the same weight. When you declare your severance among them, something happens to the declaration that cannot happen in isolation. Write it, then come back. I'll be here. Before we move to the practice, I need to address something directly, because this is where most people lose the thread. After a powerful, energetic event, there is a predictable pattern of expectation. Wake up on March 4th feeling completely different. Watch the old problems dissolve. See immediate evidence that the release worked. When that doesn't happen immediately, and it rarely does, the conclusion is that nothing worked. That conclusion is wrong. Here's the accurate model of how this actually operates. Imagine you have been living in a room filled with heavy furniture. Objects placed there long before you had the ability to choose what belonged in your space. The furniture occupied every corner. It blocked the windows. It made free movement impossible. You adapted to it so completely that you stopped registering it as furniture. It became the room. And then, on one significant evening, you moved it all out. The room is empty. What do you feel in the first moment? Not relief, not joy. A strange, disorienting spaciousness. The echo of your own footsteps. The unfamiliar light from windows that haven't been uncovered in years. A brief, irrational impulse to bring some of the furniture back, because at least you knew where everything was. This is what genuine release feels like in the first days. Not triumph, unfamiliar openness. The new doesn't arrive with announcement. It enters quietly, incrementally, the way light enters at dawn, first barely perceptible, then undeniable. It fills the space you've created at the rate you are able to receive it. March carries one primary instruction after the third. Do not force the pace. The seed that is dug up to check whether it's sprouting will not sprout. Trust is not passivity. Trust is the active practice of presence without control. There will also be grief. Unexpected, brief, real grief. Not regret, but the natural response to genuine completion. Even things we have been ready to release for a long time have become part of our story. When they go, a part of us quietly says goodbye to them. Let that grief move through. Don't arrest it. Don't amplify it. Simply allow it to complete. What comes after it is something difficult to name precisely. It feels like the first breath of outside air after a long time indoors. Cleaner, wider, as if the lungs remembered what they are capable of. That is the new energy filling the space. Watch for the signs that it's already working. A situation that used to destabilize you no longer creates the same charge. An idea arrives that feels different from the usual mental noise. Quieter, more aligned. A desire surfaces that comes not from obligation or fear, but from something that feels like genuine interest, from something that feels like joy. Those are not coincidences. That is your restructured field expressing itself in lived reality. Find a space where you can be completely alone for 20 to 30 minutes. Not phone on silent, phone in another room. This evening is not for the external world. It is for you. Light a candle. White if you want clarity. Red in honor of the blood moon and the life force you are reclaiming. Or whatever candle is available. That's correct too. Fire on an eclipse evening becomes unusually responsive. It knows this night. Sit in a way that your body requests. Spine naturally upright, without rigidity. Palms open, resting on your knees, facing upward. This is the gesture of reception. The body already knows what it means. It has always known. Close your eyes. Take 3 complete breaths. Slow, full, reaching the floor of the lungs. On each exhale, allow your shoulders to drop, your jaw to release, your forehead to smooth. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to control anything. Just breathe. On each exhale, imagine something dark and heavy leaving the body with the air. You don't need to know what it is. You don't need to name it. Just, it leaves. Now bring your awareness to the center of your chest, behind the sternum, slightly left of center. Every tradition that has mapped the human energy system points to this location as something fundamental. The heart center. The place where finite and infinite make contact inside you. Find warmth there. It may feel small at first, like an ember beneath ash. Still alive, still generating heat, simply not attended to in a long time. With each inhale, breathe into that ember, not forcing it, not demanding anything from it, simply attention. The attention itself is the oxygen. Watch it respond. It will grow at its own pace. It always does. When the warmth feels stable, when it registers as an actual physical sensation rather than just an image, speak inwardly what you are releasing, quietly, without demand. Simply name it. 1, 2, 3. As many as need to be named. And with each naming, exhale fully, as if you are giving it to the fire at the center of your chest. And the fire knows exactly what to do with it. It takes what you give it, and it returns the energy, freed, cleaned, available again. Then, stillness. Several minutes of complete silence. Simply sit in the warmth. Don't achieve anything. Don't process anything. Don't reach for insight or resolution. Just be present in the space that is already expanding inside you. Notice the pressure that was there. Is it still the same weight? Something in the architecture of your internal field has already shifted. When you are ready, not when you think you should be, but when the body indicates readiness, slowly open your eyes. Look at the candle flame. Watch it breathe. And say aloud, quietly, only for yourself, thank you. Not for anything specific. For everything, for the path, for what you carried, for the fact that you are here, in this moment, in this portal, choosing this. After the meditation, don't rush. Sit in the silence for as long as it asks for. Then take a piece of paper and a pen, not a phone, not a keyboard. Specifically, paper, blank, clean, and a pen that rests comfortably in your hand. When the hand moves across paper, there are no intermediaries between the body and the word. The brain functions differently in handwriting, slower, deeper, more honest. This is a direct channel to what you actually know. You are writing a severance contract, not a letter of resentment, not a list of grievances, not an analysis of what went wrong. a contract of conscious completion with the old version of yourself and the timeline it operated within. Address it to the old avatar, the previous operating system, the version of you that has carried this specific architecture until now. In this contract, acknowledge what it accomplished, what it protected you from when protection was genuinely necessary, what it allowed you to navigate, what it taught you about your capacity, your limits, about the nature of the forces it helped you survive. This acknowledgement is not sentiment, it is precision. A contract that doesn't honor what it is dissolving is not a clean severance, it is a suppression. The old pattern doesn't leave, it goes underground. Honor it specifically, and then close it. This contract between myself and this version of my operating system is hereby complete. The terms it was designed to fulfill have been fulfilled. The timeline it was built to navigate has been navigated. I release the energy that has been allocated to its maintenance. I reclaim that energy for the construction of what comes next. Write what you are reclaiming that energy for. Not a wish list, not a manifestation script. Simply, what becomes possible when this energy is no longer tied to the old architecture? What do you build in the quantum void? Read the contract aloud when it is complete. Words written by hand and spoken aloud vibrate at a different frequency than words that exist only as thought. The spoken word completes the circuit. Then burn it. Hold it to the candle flame over a plate. Slowly. Watch the words transform. This is not symbolic disposal. This is active alchemy. Fire is the only force that converts matter to pure energy without residue. The words, the pattern they encoded, the energy signature of the old timeline, all of it transmutes to light and smoke and rises. Collect the ash. Return it to the earth, a plant outside. In every tradition that has worked with this principle, what completes becomes the soil for what begins. The ash doesn't disappear. It becomes the ground. You have done something real tonight. You came to the end of this video, but you haven't reached an ending. You have reached the start of a new cycle. On March 3rd, 2026, you enter a new operating frequency. Not because difficulty disappears, because you are carrying less of what was never yours to carry permanently. Because the internal space you have cleared, that quantum void, will begin filling with what has been waiting outside the door. The energy that couldn't enter because the old architecture occupied the space. The people, possibilities, creative capacities, states of being, they were always there. The vessel simply had no room. Now it does. The blood moon is watching you, not with judgment, with the ancient, knowing patience of something that has witnessed every human transformation across every cycle of recorded time. It sees how long you have walked this path. It sees what you carried, and it sees clearly, without the distortion that proximity creates, who you are capable of being when you finally set it down. The phoenix chooses the fire. That's what makes it the phoenix. Not because it has no choice, because it understands that on the other side of complete combustion is the only form of renewal that goes all the way down. This is your fire, your choice, your sky. Walk into it. And if this video found you, understand that nothing in an eclipse corridor arrives by accident. The algorithm that governs these moments operates by different rules than the one in your phone. Subscribe to Secret Archive. This is what we do here. We decode the ancient intelligence that was written for you, in the stars, in the hermetic texts, in the patterns that repeat across every tradition because they are describing something real. We translate the language that the cosmos speaks to you every day, whether you hear it or not. You heard it today. Welcome to the new timeline.